What's up, Schwartz Force? Welcome back to the channel. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of Homage watches. I own quite a few of them, but I'll be the first to say that they're not all winners. And unfortunately for me, maybe I just got unlucky, but this is the CORGEUT Tudor Black Bay Bronze. You can hear that Miyota rotor spinning, bam. And it's probably stuttering the hell out of this thing too. Yeah, it sure is. All right. But anyway, we're going to do a review on this watch. We'll go over the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I'll point out some things I like about it and then some things that I don't like about it. And you guys can let me know in the comments down below what your experience has been with CORGEUT. I've seen a lot of reviews out there, and it tends to be all good. And most of what I have to say about this watch is good. There's just a couple of minor things. But before we get into it, in case you're new to the channel, my name's Dave. May the Schwartz be with you. And hey, did you know it's a great day to wear a watch? Today I have on the Bristol Clubmaster homage. Never thought I'd say that because I didn't even know about this brand a few months ago, but this is an homage of the Bristol Clubmaster chronograph. I have it in black with rose gold, and it has that, of course, Italian acetate design, tortoiseshell design. Looking forward to doing my review on this watch. It's just giving it some wrist time in the time being. But if you haven't seen my unboxing of this, as well as 4 other watches from the Schime brand, check it out up here. I highly recommend it. But without further ado, let's get into this review. Alright guys, so here we have it. This is the Tudor Black Bay Bronze homage by CORGEUT, and this particular version that I have is the sterile design as far as the dial, and this has the black bezel. You can get the coffee version of this, which will have a brown bezel, but this has the stainless steel PVD coated, and it's kind of more of a copper color. You know, when you look at pictures of this, it may appear a little more golden, but in person, this is more of a copper kind of color. Which is fine, except when you're trying to find hardware to pair with this, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. At least it was for me. That's why you don't see a bronze buckle with this strap, because I upgraded the strap to this kind of vintage brown tan leather version, and then I included a PVD coated black tang buckle, because I feel like at least this ties in with the black that's in the bezel and on the dial. But if you were to have a stainless steel clasp or buckle, it's not really going to match with anything that's on the watch itself. And even when you order this from CORGEUT, it comes with a kind of Tudor style, shaped clasp or buckle, but it's done in stainless steel, which for the bronze version doesn't really match at all. So just something I wanted to point out. But as we always do with our videos, let's go ahead and start with some measurements. So for this particular watch, you are looking at a case diameter of just at 41 millimeters. Okay, now if we include the crown, which is a screw down crown that puts us right at 45 millimeters, lug to lug height is going to be just at 50 and a half. So we'll just say 51 millimeters. And then the case thickness just under 13 millimeters. It does have a slightly domed sapphire crystal, so that allows for it to just be a little bit thicker in the middle. But let's make sure, let's see if we're getting true sapphire crystal here. Yeah, so it does have an actual sapphire crystal on the front, and then we have a stainless steel case back, so no exhibition case back or anything. I have not opened this up, but it does have a Miyota movement. The movement is probably the thing that I like the least about this particular watch, and I'll show you why. So the Miyota movement, the rotor is a little bit loud, but that's not a deal breaker for me personally. But when we go into position 2, the second hand does not hack, so I wish that this was the movement that does allow for hacking, but it does not. And then another gripe I have with the crown, because there's no date window as you see here on the dial. Let me just zoom in. There's no date window, but when we go into position 1, you can actually move it into a different date. Like you can hear it clicking as if there's a date wheel and date complication. So the fact that there's an option to adjust the date on the crown is a little bit of a bummer. It's not again, probably not a deal breaker for most, but something that I wanted to point out. As I've been wearing this watch, I actually banged it. I don't remember if it was into a doorway or what I was doing, but as you can see, the lume pip got knocked out of the bezel. So that's not really, I can't say a point against CORGEUT. That was something I did that caused that to fall out. So when you see that, if your eye keeps looking over there and you're like, hey, something's missing, yeah, it's because the lume pip is no longer in this bezel, but I could just easily order one and get it put in there, which is no big deal. But just something I wanted to point out with my particular watch, but I'm not going to fault CORGEUT for that because that was just me being a little bit rough or careless with the watch. Now, we do have a unidirectional bezel. There is a good amount of back play, as you can see here. Probably more than I'd like to see, but as far as the tactile feel on the bezel, it feels nice. It's not super crisp. It's a little soft, but that back play, you know, may be a deal breaker for some. One thing that I did want to show is that the bezel, you know, it does line up. So you can see here at 12 and then the 30 down below at 6. So at least the bezel alignment is good. Very easy to grip this bezel. You know, it's nice. The coin edge on here is really nice. It's not difficult to actuate and it actually feels pretty good. And you can see that a very slight domed angle there that you see with the bezel itself. The crown, again, coin edge, unsigned crown, just nice and clean. And everything is really smooth. The finishing on this watch itself. Now, because it's a PVD coated bronze case, it's not going to tarnish or patina. It's just going to stay in this kind of color. At least that's my understanding. The only thing that I could see being a problem is if you scratch this actual case or the bezel or anything, it could wear off and you would actually see the stainless steel exposed underneath. And that might be a problem for some. So just something to keep in mind with this particular version being the bronze kind of homage, but it is not an actual bronze case. It's a little bit of a bummer because I would have liked to have seen this with a bronze case, even paying a little bit extra. I know San Martin and some other companies out there, they do homages with bronze case designs and they're not generally a whole lot more expensive than the stainless steel counterparts. Now moving to the side, you can see typical Tudor Black Bay style design. You know, I like that everything's brushed, don't have any high polish or anything. Even the edges here where it transitions, it is brushed as well. So just all around brushed case design. And this is a 22mm lug width. So just something to keep in mind if you want to upgrade the strap, you'll want to get 22mm for this. And I bought this aftermarket kind of vintage style leather strap, very comfortable. A little bit of padding we see here at the lugs and then it tapers down, thins out quite a bit. So I think this strap with these kind of earth tones pairs really well with the bronze and the case design, but you can find a ton of different strap options out there that are going to pair with this particular watch just fine. As you know, with the Tudor, we got the snowflake style hour hand, and then of course with the second hand, and then that long baton shaped minute hand. Really nice. These are applied indices and you can see that typical elongated isosceles triangle at 12 o'clock, and then we have the circular pips at 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, and then of course Arabic numerals that are applied at 3, 6, and 9 as well. And these are loomed. It's decent. It's not super great, not super luminova. It's not going to last throughout the evening or for many hours, but for the short term, it's just nice loom. I can't really complain about it, but not anything to write home about either. Now, even though we don't have the CORGEUT branding underneath 12 o'clock, we do get that 200 meters, 660 feet chronometer officially certified wording that is located just above 6 o'clock. My understanding is this watch is only 30 meters water resistance, but I would even guess with the screw down crown, screw down case back, I wouldn't be surprised if this is probably more realistic to 50 meters water resistant. I wouldn't go swimming or diving with the watch at all, but I think you could probably get this watch wet and it not really be an issue. I haven't tested it out myself, but that might be something to do in the future just to kind of verify if it is or is not actually more than 30 meters water resistance. Now, one thing that I also like on this particular version of the CORGEUT is you do see we have that bronze Rayhot there and that brushed finish. Really nice, you know, just kind of gives it that extra step. I like the chapter ring we have here on the outer edge, and then as you can see, With the second hand, it does actually reach out all the way to those minute indices. Now, I have not experienced this with my Seagull movements or other movements and watches that I own, but this thing does what's called the Miyota stutter. It's a mechanism where when the watch is bumped, it'll stop and then skip and catch up to where it's left off. So watch, we see here, second hand is going, the watch is wound, kind of stops and then it catches up. Did you see that? But what's weird is with this particular watch, it will just randomly start stuttering and skipping along and then it catches up, kind of like it's doing right here. So it's not a consistently smooth sweep all the way through every minute. It kind of does these jerky, erratic movements. The strange thing is when I put it on the time graph, it keeps really good time. So even though the second hand isn't the smoothest sweep, from a performance aspect, it does really well. It's just something that you're going to have to decide with these Miyota movements if that's a deal breaker for you or not, because from what I've researched online, it seems to be more common with some of these cheaper Miyota movements. But that's just been my personal experience. But let me know in the comments down below, have you had any issues with Miyota movements on your watches, maybe CORGEUT in particular or other brands? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But let me go ahead and put this on the time graph so you can see how this particular movement is performing. Here we have it on our time graph. So slight beat error. Amplitude could be better. It's only at 275, but I mean, here this thing's showing it at keeping perfect time, which is just crazy for this kind of cheaper Chinese Homage watch. It seems to be doing pretty well as far as the performance, even though there is that kind of stuttering that I mentioned that periodically happens on the second hand. So here we go. I'll just let it run a little bit longer. So it finally changed to -2 seconds per day. Still pretty good in my eyes. So yeah, -2 seconds per day I think is really awesome. So we'll just go ahead and say between 0 and -2 seconds per day is the performance I'm getting on this particular movement. All right, so let's just go ahead and summarize and talk price. You know, this watch you can pick up on Amazon, which I know is going to be a little more expensive. They run about anywhere from $120 to $140 on Amazon.com. Currently here in the US, if you buy from AliExpress or some of the other sites out there directly, you can get them a little bit cheaper, maybe anywhere from $60 to $80. Check eBay as well. You may be able to snag one of these for a little bit less. Well, on the used market, you know, keep an eye out. You might be able to find some of these for a good deal as well. But let me go ahead and show you here on the wrist. So the strap is really comfortable. As you can see here, we got a little bit of a wrist roll going. Just a nice fun watch. You know, the funny thing is I bought this because I wanted a bronze style watch. When I found out that it doesn't patina, I was a little bummed out. So that is something I definitely would say was a con for me, but you may want it to stay in this condition permanently. So that would be a good thing. But because I have my Glycine Combat Sub with the bronze case, I don't find myself wearing this a whole lot. I really do like the Tudor design, and I love the snowflake hands, but I just don't find myself wearing this watch as much as I would have thought I would. So I'm actually planning on selling this one. I may keep it or hold on to it for the time being. Now, because of that lug height here on my 7-inch wrist, it does sit a little tall, almost from, you know, top to bottom of my wrist shape there. So I think if you have very small wrist, this may not be a great pick for you because it's probably going to extend just beyond your wrist shape. So that's something to keep in mind if you are thinking about buying one of these. I think you're getting a lot of good value for the price. I mean, we're talking sapphire crystal, very decent accuracy here on an automatic movement. It is the Miyota movement, so more reliable, but again, that stuttering is just an issue you may come across, so keep in mind. And then of course, you know, some decent lume, screw down crown, screw down case back, and just a great looking watch. Classic design here, the Tudor Black Bay bronze. So, you know, when we're looking at the pros and cons, again, pros, great design here on the case, functional, pretty accurate automatic movement that has some reliability, being a Miyota movement. You know, screw down crown, bezel action is decent, the lume is decent. I think you're getting good value for your money here. I think I just got unlucky with this particular one that I happened to snag. Let me know what you guys think. I have a lot of plans of reviewing other watches, of course, coming up here in the future, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't joined the Schwartz Force yet. What are you waiting for? Do so now. And if you like this review, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And as always, may the Schwartz be with you. I'll see you guys at the next one. Take care.